Hi, this is Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. Sometime back in my young 20s, I was completely on my own, living on my own, no one else around me, just doing the solo kind of thing. And I got really sick. I had no one got really sick. I had a thermometer. I mean, that's one of the things that I had for my health and pretty much nothing else. And I remember reading it saying 104. And then sometime after 104, my temperature, I got delusional. I started hallucinating. Nothing at all in life made sense at all. And I had like the most spectacular fever dreams I have ever had in my entire life. I have no idea how long it lasted. I think I was out for quite a while. But I remember what grounded me. And it was so bizarre. I couldn't tell what was real. I had no idea what truth or lie was, no idea what real or fantasy was. But there was one thing that I knew to be true in all of that fever dream that I was having. Just one thing. I kid you not. I started to say the phrase, "I am Canadian." And I have no idea why that popped in my head. I don't know why that was the truth that I held on to. But in the midst of all the wackiness that was coming through my brain, I just started shouting, I am Canadian. And that's what grounded me. I remember that experience while I was prepping for this video because the text we're looking at talks a little about being a survivor during those darker moments in life when we're pressed, when life throws bad stuff at us, when we journey through those darker moments that this world has to share with us. This just reminded me of being survivor because that's what this text is talking about. So this video is based on my interpretation of First Peter chapter 5 verses 6 through 11. And in this text, I think we learn something about being a survivor, namely during those darker moments that life would like to throw at us. First Peter chapter 5 verses 6 through 11. So humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time he will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares about you. Stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. Remember that your family of believers all over the world is going through the same kind of suffering you are. In his kindness, God called you to share in his eternal glory by means of Christ Jesus. So after you have suffered a little while, he will restore, support, and strengthen you, and he will place you on a firm foundation. All power to him forever. Amen. So this is the last passage of First Peter that we're going to be looking at together. I'm going to be creating a video, and this is the point I'm going to try to make in this video as we close off this series on First Peter. I want to share with you three essential character traits of a survivor, namely of you and I, of a person who goes through those darker moments that life throws at us, and we weather it really well, a survivor. The church that this was written to has experienced intense persecution. And I've said this before. Remember that they're losing property, they're losing their money. Some of them are losing their lives. There are Christians being martyred here. For the church to make it through, these final words at the end of this letter are shared with them to help them keep moving forward and not give up. So I think these traits will serve us well too, as we attempt to figure out how we're going to live and stand up under the weight of whatever it is that we're carrying, and as we plod through those really dark, intense moments of our life. Three character traits that will help us out in the darkness. Here's number one. Believe it or not, I'm calling it humility. I think that humility is one of the character traits that we need in those moments when we need to be a survivor. The text says, humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time he will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares about you. So you may not see what I'm seeing here, and that's fine. Here's my explanation. I'm going to share with you my explanation. If you've got a different interpretation, that's totally fine. I want to hear your interpretation of this. So feel free to interpret it differently. Leave a note in the comments. But here's my take on this. Under oppression, in those darker moments, hubris, arrogance, pride is actually going to get us bruises. When you have no worldly power, arrogance and entitlement, they're going to get you shunned and ridiculed. Anything other than humility is really taking your life and your future into your own hands and living in a state of denial about who you really are and who God is. Humility is being honest with yourself about yourself. We are God's creatures. He created every single one of us, his creations, made with a purpose that includes a life with him. He calls us into a relationship with him, to follow him. We have the responsibility to answer that call and to choose the humility required to be a follower. Being a follower sometimes requires some patience. If we're followers and at the back of the line, if we start shooting our mouths off or acting like we're leading the line, we get displaced from the line. We lose our way. We suffer consequences. Not a great place we want to be in those darker moments. We don't want to be shooting our mouth off and being all hubristic, if that's a word, in those darker moments as we're walking through life. Now, in this case, while we're being honest about ourselves, we can also be honest about who God is. God cares about you. Cares about all of us. Here's what I'm wondering. In what ways are we tempted to jump ahead of God and take the leadership away from him when we're in those darker moments? Like our trust is sort of attacked in those darker moments of life. And when our trust is attacked, we kind of get a little bit arrogant, like I can do this on my own. God is too slow. I'm going to step up. What moments trigger us to try and wrestle leadership away from God? Being a Jesus follower is a lot of following. We get a voice, we have agency, we are not brainless automatons. We're highly discerning, knowing that our fight isn't truly about anything that we can see. Our true fight is for the love of God and the love of others as we move into eternity. And we just get on with our life as well. Keeping the humility required to be a Jesus follower is an essential trait. When we're in those darker moments, humility, in my opinion, humility is something that is absolutely required for us to be a survivor in those darker moments. Here's the second thing that I wanted to share. The second trait is resilience. And this might be a no-brainer. So here's what the text says. Stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. So I'll say it one more time, heads up here. This is my interpretation, what I'm doing with this text. Feel free to have a different take on this and leave a comment to talk about it or talk about it in the Zoom meeting the next time we meet this Sunday. Here's my interpretation. When life gets hard, there are some things that become easier to do. The harder life gets, there are some things that become super easier to do. For example, when our money is running low, it gets much easier to do things that are a little sketchy to get food and to get money. Okay, for another example, when we're constantly bombarded by negativity and criticism, maybe we're enduring a toxic system and maybe there's judgment, lots of toxic people. It can get really easy to start lashing out at others and creating some safe space between us and them to defend ourselves really loudly. We become argumentative, we become accusing. Maybe we might even swear a little bit. Whoa. It becomes really easy for us to go to those darker parts of ourselves. When things get hard, our darker urges get easier to carry out. There's no way upstanding people, well, maybe there is, but there's generally no way upstanding people would be tempted to do sketchy things to get money and food if all their bills are being paid and their fridges are full, because there'd be no need. But go a few weeks or months living on bread crusts and things can change in a hurry. So this text makes reference to the devil. He's like a roaring lion looking for those who lack resiliency and who will mess up when under pressure. And when he sees someone messing up under pressure, he comes in for the kill and he drags them away. That's the illustration that's being used here. So my idea of resiliency is this. When life is hard, that's when our values matter. When it's hard to follow Jesus, that's when it matters most. Our values don't matter as much when they're not tested. They're there. but they're never tested. So do we really even have them? Our values really only matter when we're under pressure, when they're being tested. Holding on to your resolve is essential when we're under pressure and experiencing those darker moments the world can throw at us, because without resolve, we're just going to descend into those darker parts of ourselves and act out on those. So resilience really matters. Resolving ourselves to be that Jesus follower. Resilience matters. Here's the last thing I want to share, jumping out in the text to me. The third trait that is so essential for survivors is hope. The text says, after you have suffered a little while, he will restore, support, and strengthen you, and he will place you on a firm foundation. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to get too much pushback on this interpretation. If you've got a different interpretation, please leave a comment or show up prepared to talk about it when we meet on Zoom. When life gets hard and when we're under pressure, keeping our eyes set on our objective, remembering how worthy our objective, our goal is super motivational. If you're a Jesus follower, your hope is actually in the second coming and in the resurrection. So in the illustration I shared at the very beginning of the video, I shared that I got a little weird and I got a little delusional once my fever passed the 104 spot. And I shared with you that there was something I held onto that helped me stay in a very small way grounded as I got through all of that. So I didn't give in to the delusions. At least I hope I didn't. I have no idea. I held on to a piece of truth that I knew was true. And for me, it was, I am Canadian. I don't know why that was the truth. I don't have a clue. It was the only truth I knew at that moment, which sounds bizarre, but I had a fever over 104. I'm surprised to remember anything that was real at all. When we're under pressure, when we're experiencing the darker things this world can throw at us, holding on to something that's true and doesn't change keeps us motivated and keeps us moving forward. The truth for Jesus followers is that Jesus is coming back. And there is going to be a resurrection. There is something better than this experience waiting for us in our future. So when life throws those darker moments at us, it's super helpful when we remember that this isn't the last chapter of us. There's a far better chapter to come. If we stay resilient, if we hold on to hope, things are going to get really better for us when Jesus comes back and closes this chapter as we know it and opens a new chapter. So let's summarize this. Dark times put us into survival mode. There are 3 traits of survivors that this text points out that would be super beneficial for us to hold on to and know about. To get through dark times, remember to hold on to your humility, to stay resilient around your connection with Jesus and your values, and to hold on to your hope of eternity, knowing that how you perform under pressure is worth the reward at the end of all of this mess. That's my interpretation, and I'd love to hear yours. Leave a comment or bring your comment with you when we meet on Zoom this Sunday at 6. So that's it from me to you for now. Would you please like? Would you please share? Would you please subscribe? Would you please ask for the link? Meet on Zoom. Guys only, men only, through the summer on Zoom, 6 o'clock. For community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.